Hey nerds, we are going to do a review or breakdown of Star Wars The Acolyte Episode 4, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Colin.
And I'm David.
So we are now at the halfway point of Star Wars The Acolyte. The spoiler-free logline of this episode is racing to the next target. The Jedi head to a new world as they close in on a clever assassin. David, what are your thoughts about this episode?
I enjoyed this episode, especially now that in the first three episodes we're introduced new characters and then we're given a backstory of all the characters and how it all happened. Now we're getting straight to more action, but the way they ended there makes me wish that they showed the next episode already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. It did leave on a cliffhanger. I definitely did enjoy it because the pacing was much faster. I think that in the pre-production, I spoke to you about how Star Wars really has been inconsistent throughout the whole Disney Plus run that they had. Trying to really set up a lot of stuff in the first 2 or 3 episodes until they really get going in episodes 4 and 5. So now we're getting to the point of getting going. And then they have a little bit of a lull of the second act, and then toward the end, there might be some type of resolution. So they're just following the same type of pattern. And I wish that for the first couple of episodes, there were a lot more action instead of just talking. I know that there was some here and there of action, but it wasn't really compelling except for Indara's encounter with May in the first episode. But I think that's where it loses it for me sometimes, is that there isn't this constant anxiety that happens with Star Wars, in which the original episodes has that. Some of the prequels have that. The sequels, not so much. But I think that sense of level of intensity, urgency, anxiety is not always there in these episodes, and it makes the more objective critics much more down on the product itself. So I think that it could be a lot better in terms of execution for the first couple of episodes to keep people engaged in the product itself. So having said all that, what rating would you give episode 4?
I would give it a 8, which is a road trip, because this episode is very straightforward and gets straight to the action, which I enjoyed. Although there was a couple of things which we will discuss later that could make this episode a bit better in terms of rating, but it's enough for me to enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I think I would also give it an 8, which is a road trip. I think that it's definitely a more solid episode than the first 3, which I gave 7s throughout. I think that it definitely quickens the pace, and there's a big mystery at the end. And also the characters are much more in flow. Now we know who the characters are. We're going to get into the story and into the conflict part of the whole series itself. That's my rating overall. So any other thoughts before we get into spoiler territory?
Let's dive in.
Okay. So if you like our discussion about Star Wars The Acolyte and other content that we put out, please like, share, subscribe for more content like this. We really appreciate your support. And spoilers ahead. First, we start off with Kelnaka. Now we have the 4 Jedi that May is trying to have her Kill Bill revenge on, and so far she has eliminated 2 of them. She has encountered Soul, but Soul escaped, and Kelnaka is the next one on the list, and he is on the planet of Kofar, which we haven't seen before. All the content that we've had so far, they have continued introducing us to new planets. It's a little bit like Kashyyyk. So again, the galaxy is big. So I think that's probably a good job of the creators trying to introduce the fans into new planets. He is in this phase where he's probably not using the Force, but he's in a spot where he doesn't want to be found, because later on May mentioned that he is deep in hiding. And so Kamir and May are actually trying to find him at this point of the story. Then we get to switch to Jecki. We saw Jecki in the first couple of episodes. She is the new apprentice of Soul. And so Jecki and Osha actually has a conversation here. Osha feeling a little bit less familiar with all of the surroundings, but she feels as though she needs to leave Coruscant and also leave Soul by himself because she hasn't really processed through the fact that her sister is alive. She really thinks that she needs to have some space away so that she's able to process all those things. David, what do you think of the process of which Osha is going through right now? Do you think that she made the right decision of leaving Seoul, or do you think that she should stay on? But we know that later on she ended up staying on. But what was your thought process regarding Osha's decision?
The thing is with Jackie and Osha is that their connection to Soul. Again, we don't know the full story of Jackie yet, like basically saying why was she picked from Soul to be the new apprentice. And we still don't know why Osha left the Jedi Order. When Jackie and Osha were talking to each other about their experience between Soul, and Osha feels relieved that she was found proven innocent behind the killings of the previous Jedi murders. My take is that there's some sisterhood bonding because they have a common important person in their life, which is Soul, which is like a father figure to them.
Mm-hmm.
They can relate to each other. But the thing is, unlike Osha, May, again, we don't know her upbringing ever since that we saw the flashback episode of her upbringing. We don't know what happened after she survived the fire, how Kamir was found, how she was trained up to this point. But in this scene here, we saw Mai and Kamir discussing about how they found the Kanaka on this planet. And also, Kamir talked about her training. Basically, you must not kill a Jedi with a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And Maya thinking about it because the past two kills she did, because she did kill Indara with a weapon, which is a dagger or a kunai, basically. And then with Tobin, it was poison.
Right.
Really, in a standpoint, it is a weapon. But she thinks it's a riddle, an impossible riddle to solve.
Right.
And then the thing is that Kamira is trying to say that there is something more to it. But Maya is wondering, how did he know what the masters say?
Yeah, exactly.
You need to say, what kind of deal do you have? But then there was a moment there that Kamira says, I, and I'm like, and they immediately changed it to we.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
Right.
So, because I had a theory that maybe Kamir is the master, but we don't know yet. And then next off, we have Soul and Vanessa and other Jedis discussing about Mai. They're like wondering who in the world trained her that is closely similar to the Jedi arts. They thought it's a splinter group of the Order.
Right.
But one of the other Jedis is saying that if it was a splinter group, they would have known about already. It's like a black ops sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know either the Sith does exist or they don't know about it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they'll explain a bit later in the episodes though, because I played all the Star Wars games during the High Republic era. The Sith does exist,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know of when exactly this story is in relation to games, but we'll find out later.
Right.
But anyway, what the point is that Vanessa says we have to hunt down May and bring her in to the Coruscant. And then Soul volunteered to go after her because he feels responsible to Mai. And then Vanessa was hesitant at first. At the same time, he confronted him saying, why didn't you say anything about the twin when you brought Osha in? And then why do you save her? And then Soul's like saying, there's no way they survived. I would have looked. Soul really wants to go after May because he feels responsible what happened. They felt that he could have done more
Mm-hmm.
and also do Osha's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Which then later on, after the scene here, Soul happened to caught up with Osha and tell her about the mission and to join him to intercept the May.
Mm-hmm.
But Osha hesitated at first because she doesn't want to confront her sister, even though she did all those murders and she's far beyond saving. But she's your only family and feels that I sense good in her, which is a nod from Padme from episode 3 when she told Mai that Osha's alive, that her eyes softened, as in she was shocked. And that's why Soul really wants Osha to come, because one, he has unfinished mission with Osha even before she left the Jedi Order. Because every Jedi, before they become knights, they have to face their fears
Mm-hmm.
or face their past. So now she joined the mission. Even though she's asked Osha did ask her, am I rejoining the Jedi? And Osha, not officially. Because she got excited for a minute that she might be a chance to get a Jedi, which kind of tells me, did she really get left the order, or she was kicked out?
Mm-hmm.
So because she said, "Are you asking me to join a Jedi?" Because she sounded excited. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you sounded as if she left the order,
Mm-hmm.
but it sounded like she kicked out. So we'll find out a bit later. So now they're going on the mission here and met this rabbit-looking one, which reminds me of Pepe from Star Fox. I'm thinking, whoa, 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 this is Peppy from Star Fox? That'll be a little nice nod there. But I'm not, but it turns out this one is as you mentioned, he's also a Padawan in the
Yeah.
Jedi
And
Order.
this
And
is the
he's,
part where he finds May and shocked and basically screamed at the rest of the Jedi to come quick so that they can find May.
before that, Mai had a conversation with Kamir about what she should do because she's conflicted because of what to do if she meets Mai again. Because first of all, she was shocked that Osha is alive, and second, that Osha is part of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And thing because she still blames the Jedi for the murder of her family and the cause of the whole thing. And Kamir said, "No, you have to go through with this." And then she said later trapped the Kamir that she will go straight to Kanaka, turn herself in, and she left. Hence, that rabbit-looking Padawan found her.
We also find out that Kilnaka got sliced by a lightsaber. It's been alluded to that the Sith Lord is the one that is responsible because May saw that. But we also do not know who this mysterious figure is, although there's a lot of hints, I say as well, that Kamir is the Sith Lord. But we don't know yet. And we can see here first appearance of the Sith Lord. And we also get to see the red lightsaber that he has, and May is right in front of him, and he basically just pushes her aside using the Force. And then toward the end of the episode, the Jedi starts engaging with the Sith Lord. And Sol was at this point sensing that there was something wrong and really just brushing it off to Osha saying, oh, there's really nothing. But then when the Sith Lord comes up, then basically what he did was that he actually used the Force to push them all aside in a cloud of dust, and then that's how the episode ended. What were your thoughts about this cliffhanger, though, David?
I was like saying, "Come on," because I want to get to the action here now.
Right.
Because I expect to be a fight like the Duel of the Fates back in episode 1, where Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn fought against Darth Maul. I expect to see how one Sith can manage to take all that Jedi there. So I'm thinking, so we have to wait till next week. So I think that's probably why I didn't give a high rating. But there's a nice way to be excited for and to look forward for it next week. So
Right. So, any other final thoughts before we wrap up episode 4?
I had to mention something to the viewers that we've seen blue and green lightsabers from the Jedi, and sometimes with Mace Windu, which is purple, which is basically of the most knowledgeable and high powerful Jedi. But then in that last scene, we saw yellow.
Mm-hmm.
They're not masters. They're basically like Jedi sentinels who chose the role of being a sentinel, which is basically become a protector of the order and then the teachings of the order. Now, back to the Khmer thing, there's a lot of hints, especially from the conversation between Khmer and May, and also when the Sith Lord appeared, pay attention to the clothes he was wearing.
Right.
That's the same clothing that Khmer was wearing when they arrived on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But why is he wearing a mask? Because I read there's a theory that a helmet or a mask helps a Sith Lord to focus on that power and not be distracted what's around him. I think the mask for this character could be is to help amplify his power. And I think that's what the mask is for. But anyway, we'll finally reveal if it's really Khmer underneath that mask and he's really the master. But here's another thing though. Is he really the master? Or is there someone else higher up?
Mm-hmm.
This is set 100 years before the Phantom Menace, so we don't know exactly. And also I want to point out another thing is that back in the scene where Saul and Vanestra and the other Jedi were discussing how they can intercept May, there was a mention about should the High Council be notified. So that means that Saul and Vanestra are not like council masters, basically, like Master Yoda.
Right.
So So when they mention High Council, there could be a nod that Master Yoda is in this era or in Coruscant, but they're not mentioning him by name.
Right. And also, you have to
So
remember that a lot of Jedi Knights were around the High Republic era. So there's
that's
not
not
just like a very small group of Jedi Knights that are available, or they're all spread out everywhere throughout the
mhm,
galaxy. And even during the Clone Wars, there were a lot less of them during
yeah.
that time. So that's our review and breakdown of Star Wars The Acolyte, Episode 4. We would like to hear from you about this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below for more content like this. And we will see you in the next video. All right. Take care, everybody.